You have some nerve showing up here, the deceased sister Claire hissed, blocking Imani's path at the funeral reception. What do you want? Here to take whatever's left? Imani, holding her 3 daughters' hands, shook her head. I just wanted to pay my respects, she said softly. Respects? You broke his heart. Leave, Claire shouted. A tall, well-dressed mixed-race man stepped forward, placing a calming hand on Imani's shoulder. Claire, that's enough, he said, his voice low and firm. There's something all of you need to know about his will. But before he reveals the shocking request, tell me where you're watching from and what time it is. Now subscribe to the channel and let's get into the full story. How dare you show up here with those children? The sharp voice cut through the murmured conversations filling the grand chapel. Emma Parker flinched at the words, instinctively moving to shield her 8-year-old triplet daughters from the piercing stare of Rebecca Harrison. She had expected hostility, but not so quickly and not so publicly. Girls, stay close, Emma whispered, guiding Sophie, Lily, and Olivia toward the back row of Oakwood Memorial Chapel. The enormous stone building stood as the centerpiece of Westbrook Heights, Connecticut, where America's wealthiest families laid their dead to rest. Today, the chapel overflowed with powerful people, technology executives in expensive suits, politicians with practiced solemn expressions, and celebrities trying to remain inconspicuous behind sunglasses. All had gathered to say goodbye to James Harrison, the 45-year-old billionaire technology innovator whose unexpected death had dominated headlines for the past week. Mom, everyone is staring at us. Sophie, the most outspoken of the triplets, tugged at Emma's simple black dress. The dress had cost $80 at a department store, a sharp contrast to the designer funeral wear surrounding them. Just keep walking, sweetie, Emma said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Remember what we talked about in the car? Olivia, the most sensitive of the 3, nodded. We're here to say goodbye to Dad, even if he didn't visit us much. Emma guided her daughters to seats in the last row, far from the family section at the front where Rebecca Harrison sat with the family attorney, Walter Phillips. Rebecca, as chief financial officer of Harrison Technologies and James's older sister, had arranged every detail of the funeral. She had not invited Emma or the girls. Hold your photographs, girls, Emma whispered as they settled into the hard wooden pew. Each girl reached into her small purse and removed a worn photo of James Harrison, the same photo taken 5 years ago during his single visit to their home. In the picture, he stood awkwardly beside Emma, not touching her, his smile not reaching his eyes. He had stayed exactly 23 minutes. Is that Lady Dad's sister? Lily asked, the most observant of the triplets, noticing Rebecca's continued glares from the front row. Yes, that's your Aunt Rebecca, Emma answered quietly. She's very sad today, so she might not be friendly. The truth was more complicated. Rebecca had fought against James providing any support to Emma and the girls from the beginning, calling the pregnancy a trap. Despite DNA tests confirming the triplets were indeed James's daughters, Rebecca had maintained that Emma was nothing but a gold digger who had seduced her brother during a vulnerable time. The organ music swelled, signaling the start of the service. The minister spoke of James's brilliance, his technological innovations, his philanthropic gifts. One by one, business associates approached the podium, sharing stories of James's vision and demanding nature. None mentioned his 3 daughters or their mother. When Rebecca took the podium, her black designer dress impeccably fitted. Her voice was clear and controlled. My brother devoted his life to innovation, she began. He sacrificed personal relationships to build something meaningful, something that will outlast all of us. Her gaze drifted to Emma and the girls. James was generous to a fault. Sometimes people took advantage of that generosity. Some saw only dollar signs when they looked at him, not the beautiful mind behind the fortune. Emma felt her cheeks burn as several mourners turned to stare at her. She focused on smoothing Olivia's hair, trying to ignore Rebecca's thinly veiled accusations. "Mom," Olivia whispered, tears filling her eyes. "Why is she saying mean things about us?" "She's not, sweetie," Emma lied. "She's just very sad." When the service ended, mourners moved toward the ornate casket at the front to pay final respects. Emma hesitated, wondering if she should leave without approaching. The girls, however, stood expectantly. "Can we say goodbye to Dad?" Sophie asked, clutching her photo tightly. Emma nodded, taking a deep breath. "Of course. We'll go together." They joined the line of mourners, ignoring the whispers that followed them. When they reached the casket, Emma lifted 3 roses from the arrangement at the side, one for each girl to place. "Goodbye, Dad," Lily said softly, placing her rose on the gleaming wood. "I wish we knew you better," Olivia added, her voice breaking as she set down her flower. Sophie placed her rose last. "Mom says you were very smart. I'm smart too." The simple dignity of the girls' farewell brought tears to Emma's eyes. As they turned to leave, Rebecca blocked their path, her heels clicking aggressively on the marble floor. "How dare you show your face here, gold digger!" Rebecca's voice echoed through the chapel. "You trapped my brother with these children, and now you think you'll cash in?" The remaining mourners froze, many reaching for their phones to record the confrontation. Emma stepped in front of her daughters. "Rebecca, please." "Not here. Not today." The girls wanted to say goodbye to their father. "Their father?" Rebecca laughed bitterly. "James never wanted children. He especially never wanted you. The only thing he shared with you was his DNA and his money, both of which you took without permission." Sophie stepped forward, her small hands clenched into fists. "Don't talk to my mom like that." Emma gently pulled Sophie back. "It's okay, sweetie." "It is most certainly not okay," a deep voice interrupted. Michael Bennett, James's childhood friend and lawyer, stepped between Emma and Rebecca. At 44, his salt and pepper hair and calm demeanor commanded immediate respect. "That's enough, Rebecca," he said firmly. "This is neither the time nor the place for this discussion." Rebecca's eyes narrowed. "Stay out of this, Michael. You may have been his friend, but I was his sister. I know what James would have wanted, and it wasn't this woman getting her hands on his money." "Actually," Michael replied evenly, "James was very clear about what he wanted. Everyone needs to be at the reading of the will tomorrow. He left specific instructions." Rebecca's expression flickered with uncertainty before hardening again. "Whatever scheme she convinced him to agree to won't stand up in court. I'll make sure of it." As Rebecca stormed away, Emma noticed several mourners whispering and pointing. She could already imagine the social media posts and gossip columns that would follow. "I'm sorry about that," Michael said quietly. "James would have been furious to see you treated this way." "Would he?" Emma asked, unable to keep the bitterness from her voice. "He never stood up for us when he was alive." Michael looked at the triplets who were huddling together, confused and upset by the confrontation. His expression softened. "James made many mistakes, but I think you'll find tomorrow that he tried to make things right in the end." As Emma hurried her daughters toward the exit, she caught Michael giving her a look that seemed to say he knew something important, something that would change everything when the will was read. In the car, Emma helped the girls buckle their seatbelts, trying to find words to explain what had happened. "Mom, why does that lady hate us so much?" Olivia asked, tears streaming down her face. "She doesn't hate you," Emma said, wiping her daughter's cheeks. "She just loved your father very much, and she's sad and angry that he's gone." "But she said mean things about you," Sophie insisted. Emma started the car, thinking carefully about her response. Sometimes people say things they don't mean when they're hurting. "Your Aunt Rebecca wanted to protect your father, and she thinks I didn't make him happy." "Did you?" Lily asked quietly from the back seat. always the one to ask the difficult questions. Emma looked at her daughters in the rearview mirror, 3 identical faces with James's dark eyes and her auburn hair. Your father and I had a complicated relationship, but he gave me the 3 greatest gifts of my life, and I'll always be thankful to him for that. As they drove away from Oakwood Chapel, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that the funeral had been just the beginning. Tomorrow, when James Harrison's will was read, she would face Rebecca again, and whatever secret Michael Bennet was keeping would finally be revealed. Emma barely slept that night, her mind filled with Rebecca's angry words and Michael's mysterious look. The next morning arrived with gray clouds hanging over Westbrook Heights, matching her mood as she prepared the girls for the will reading. "Do we have to go?" Sophie asked, arms crossed over her flowered dress. "That mean lady will be there." "Yes, we do," Emma said, helping Olivia with her hair. "Michael said your father left specific instructions and we need to respect that." Lily looked up from her shoes. "Will we see where Dad lived?" Emma nodded. "Yes, we'll be going to his house. It's very big, so stay close to me, okay?" The drive to the Harrison mansion took 20 minutes, each turn bringing them deeper into the wealthiest part of town. When the gates came into view, tall iron structures with an ornate H worked into the design. Emma's hands tightened on the steering wheel. A security guard checked their names against a list. "Ms. Parker and the Harrison children," he said with a nod, pressing a button to open the gates. The driveway seemed to stretch forever, winding through perfectly manicured gardens before revealing the mansion, a massive stone structure with more windows than Emma could count. "Whoa," Sophie whispered. "Dad lived here by himself?" "He had staff," Emma explained. "People who cooked and cleaned and took care of the grounds." A butler met them at the door, his expression carefully neutral. "Miss Parker, the reading will take place in the main living room. Everyone else has already arrived." Emma felt underdressed in her simple navy blue dress as they followed the butler through hallways lined with expensive art. The girls stayed close, their eyes wide as they took in their father's home. The living room was larger than Emma's entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the gardens, and furniture that probably cost more than her car filled the space. James's relatives, cousins, an uncle, Rebecca, sat in small clusters, their conversations stopping when Emma and the girls entered. Rebecca sat near a large fireplace, whispering with Walter Phillips. When she saw Emma, she leaned over and kissed Walter's cheek, a gesture that seemed designed to display confidence. "Emma," Michael greeted them, rising from his seat. "Girls, welcome. Please sit here." He guided them to a sofa across from Rebecca. The triplets sat close together, shoulders touching. Olivia clutched Emma's hand while Sophie stared defiantly at the relatives who watched them. Lily's eyes moved around the room, taking in every detail. "Now that everyone is present," Michael said, moving to stand by a desk covered with papers, "we can begin the reading of James Harrison's last will and testament." Walter Phillips frowned. "Traditionally, as family attorney?" "James specifically requested that I handle this matter," Michael interrupted smoothly. "As executor of his estate." Rebecca straightened. "This is highly irregular." "Nevertheless, it was James's wish," Michael replied, opening a thick document. He began reading, starting with formal legal language and then moving on to smaller bequests, money for longtime staff members, donations to various charities, and specific items for certain relatives. Emma noticed Walter's eyebrows rising several times as Michael read, suggesting even the family lawyer was hearing some of this for the first time. Rebecca maintained her composed expression until Michael reached the main portion of the will. "And now to the matter of my primary estate and holdings," Michael read, his voice clear and steady. "I, James Robert Harrison, being of sound mind, do hereby bequeath my entire remaining fortune currently valued at approximately $2,400,000,000, to my nephew John Smith for his education and future endeavors $100 million, including controlling interest in Harrison Technologies, all properties, investments, and assets, to my 3 daughters, Sophie Grace Harrison, Lily Rose Harrison, and Olivia Faith Harrison. A collective gasp filled the room. Rebecca's face drained of color. Until my daughters reach the age of 25, Michael continued, their mother, Emma Parker, will serve as sole trustee of their inheritance, with full authority to manage these assets on their behalf. Harrison Technologies will be overseen by its board of directors, with Emma Parker holding my voting shares until such time as my daughters are prepared to take active roles in the company, should they choose to do so. This is absurd. Rebecca stood suddenly, knocking over a crystal vase that shattered on the hardwood floor. James would never do this. The triplets jumped at the noise, Olivia shrinking against Emma's side. Rebecca, Walter cautioned, but she ignored him. She manipulated him. Rebecca pointed at Emma. She obviously coerced him when he was sick. This will is a fraud. The will has been properly witnessed and notarized, Michael said calmly. James was thoroughly examined by 2 independent physicians who certified his mental competence at the time of signing 6 months ago. What does billions mean? Lily whispered to Emma. Before Emma could answer, Rebecca stormed across the room, stopping directly in front of them. You won't get away with this, she hissed. I will fight this with every resource I have. You trapped my brother with these children, and now you think you can steal his company too? Sophie stood up, small but fierce. Stop being mean to my mom. Walter hurried over, placing a hand on Rebecca's arm. Rebecca, not now. We need to discuss our options privately. Emma noticed James's cousin taking photos of them with his phone, likely planning to share them with the press. The other relatives whispered among themselves, some looking shocked, others angry. Michael, Emma said quietly, I think we should go. Michael nodded. I've completed the formal reading. Everyone will receive copies of the relevant documents. He gathered some papers into a folder. Rebecca, Walter, I'll be available to discuss any questions after you've had time to review everything. As Emma stood to leave with the girls, she noticed several relatives taking photos with their phones. By tomorrow, this scene would be all over social media. While the others were distracted by Rebecca's continued outburst, Michael approached Emma, discreetly handing her an envelope. James asked me to give you this privately. Don't open it until you're alone. Emma slipped the envelope into her purse, her hands shaking slightly. Thank you. The drive home was quiet, the girls processing what had happened in their own ways. As they turned onto their street, Emma saw news vans already parked outside their modest house. Mom, why are there TV people at our house? Olivia asked, eyes wide. Someone must have told them about the will. Emma sighed. Let's go to Aunt Jenny's house instead. She drove past their home to her sister's apartment, calling ahead to explain the situation. Once the girls were settled with Jenny, Emma finally had a moment alone to open James's envelope. Inside was a key, old-fashioned and heavy, along with a handwritten note. Emma, there are things I couldn't say in person or in my will. This key opens my private study at the lake house. Go there alone. Find the truth. James. Emma stared at the key, remembering the secluded lake house James kept separate from his main properties, a place even Rebecca didn't visit. Her phone buzzed with a notification. She looked down to see a breaking news alert with her name in the headline, Waitress inherits billionaire's fortune, the woman who captured James Harrison's billions. Emma turned off her phone, clutching the key tightly. Whatever truth James wanted her to find, she needed to discover it quickly. Rebecca would fight this will with everything she had, and Emma needed to understand why James had made this choice if she was going to protect their daughter's inheritance. The key felt heavy in her hand, as heavy as the responsibility James had unexpectedly placed on her shoulders. Tomorrow, She would go to the lake house and find whatever James had left for her. Tonight, she needed to prepare her daughters for the storm that was coming. 1 week after the will reading, Emma's life had changed completely. She had visited James's lake house and found his private study but hadn't had time to fully explore it. Reporters camped outside her home day and night, making it impossible for the family to live normally. "Mom, I don't want to go to school today," Olivia said, her eyes red from crying. She sat at their kitchen table, breakfast untouched in front of her. Emma pulled the blinds closed as she spotted a photographer with a long lens pointed at their window. "What happened yesterday, sweetie?" "Maddie showed me what her mom posted about you online." Olivia's voice trembled. "She said you only pretended to love Dad for his money." Emma knelt beside her daughter. "You know that's not true, right? I cared about your father, and he gave me the 3 most wonderful gifts in the world, you and your sisters." Sophie stomped into the kitchen, backpack already on. "I'm going to school. I'm not afraid of what people say." "That's very brave," Emma said. "But please remember what we talked about. Don't get into arguments about the news stories." The phone rang, the 5th call that morning from a reporter. Emma let it go to voicemail as she helped Lily pack her lunch. "Will this ever stop?" Lily asked, her practical nature showing through even at 8 years old. "Eventually," Emma promised. "People will find something new to talk about." After dropping the girls at school, Emma drove to Bob's Diner on the edge of town. She'd chosen it specifically because reporters wouldn't expect her there. Michael was already waiting in a booth in the back, away from windows. "Thank you for meeting me," Emma said, sliding into the seat across from him. Michael pushed a mug of coffee toward her. "You look exhausted." "I haven't slept much." She took a sip of coffee. "It's been 7 days since the will reading, and there have been reporters outside my house, every single one of them." "I've seen the headlines," Michael nodded grimly. "The waitress who seduced a billionaire. Gold digger hits the jackpot. Complete garbage." Emma pulled a thick envelope from her purse. "This arrived yesterday. Rebecca's officially contesting the will." Michael took the papers and skimmed them. "She's claiming undue influence. Says you manipulated James during his final months." "Final months of what? I barely saw James in the past year. He sent money for the girls but kept his distance, just like always." Emma's voice cracked. "I didn't even know he was sick." Michael's eyes widened. "You didn't know?" "No! I found out from a reporter shouting questions at me outside the courthouse. Did you know James was dying when you convinced him to change his will?" Emma wiped away a tear. "Why didn't he tell me?" Michael was quiet for a moment. "James was diagnosed with terminal cancer 2 years ago. He swore me to secrecy. I was the only one who knew besides his doctors." Emma stared at him in shock. 2 years? All that time, he knew he was dying, and he still stayed away from his daughters? "It's complicated," Michael began, but was interrupted by Emma's phone ringing. The school's number flashed on the screen. "Hello?" "Yes, this is Sophie's mother." Emma's expression changed from worry to anger. "I'll be right there." She hung up and grabbed her purse. Sophie got into a fight. She punched a boy who said I trapped James with a pregnancy. "I'll come with you," Michael offered. "We need to finish this conversation and I can help with the school." At Westbrook Elementary, they found Sophie sitting outside the principal's office with an ice pack on her knuckles. Her uniform was rumpled and her eyes were defiant. "He deserved it," she said before Emma could speak. "Billy Miller said you were a gold digger who tricked Dad, so I hit him." "Oh, Sophie." Emma sighed, sitting next to her daughter. "The Miller boy has a bloody nose," the school secretary informed them disapprovingly. Michael stepped forward. "I'm Michael Bennett, family counsel for the Harrisons. I'd like to speak with Principal Davis." While Michael smoothed things over with the administration, Emma talked quietly with Sophie. "I know you were defending me, but fighting isn't the answer." "But they're all saying lies about you," Sophie insisted. "And about Dad. Billy said Dad didn't even want us. Emma hugged her daughter tightly. Your father wanted you. He just had trouble showing it. When they left the school, Michael walked them to Emma's car. Emma, this is only going to get worse. Rebecca has hired investigators. The media is offering money to anyone with stories about you. What can I do? I can't keep the girls locked inside. Let me make a suggestion, Michael said. Move to the Harrison guest house. It's on the estate but separate from the main house. It has security, gates to keep reporters out, and the girls would have space to play safely. Emma shook her head. I can't take anything from the estate while the will is being contested. Actually, you can. As trustee, you have full rights to use the property for the girls' benefit. The guest house has 6 bedrooms, a pool, and a garden. The girls would be protected there. Emma hesitated. It feels wrong, like I'm taking advantage. James wanted you to have access to everything. Remember the key he left you? His private study is at the main house, not the lake house. He must have confused them in his final days. Before Emma could respond, her phone chimed with a news alert. She looked down to see a new headline. Harrison heiresses. Will DNA tests prove paternity? They're going after my daughters now, she whispered. Michael squeezed her shoulder. For the girls' sake, Emma, move to the estate where they'll be safe. 3 days later, Emma and the triplets arrived at the Harrison estate with their essential belongings. The guest house turned out to be a beautiful 2-story home that would fit their entire apartment inside it 4 times over. This is where we'll live now? Lily asked, running her hand over the marble kitchen countertop. For a while, Emma said, until things calmed down. While the girls explored the garden, Michael showed Emma to James's main house. His private study is through here. No one has been allowed inside for years, not even Rebecca. He unlocked a heavy door with the key James had left Emma. Inside, the walls were lined with books and advanced computer equipment. A large desk dominated the center of the room. I'll leave you alone, Michael said. Take your time. Emma walked slowly around the study, touching James's things, trying to understand the man who had fathered her children but remained a mystery. On the desk sat a framed photo she'd never seen before. James holding the triplets as infants, looking terrified but proud. She pulled open a drawer, finding it filled with tech magazines. Another contained office supplies, but the third drawer stuck slightly. When she pulled harder, the entire section of desk shifted, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside lay a stack of leather-bound journals. Emma lifted the top one and opened to a random page, her heart racing as she recognized James's handwriting. Watch the girls at their school play today from the back row. Sophia has my stubborn chin. She refused to stay in her spot and kept moving to center stage. Olivia is so sensitive. She cried when she forgot a line. And Lily, practical as always, helped both her sisters. They are so clearly mine, not just in looks, but in spirit. Why can't I bring myself to be part of their lives? I tell myself I'm protecting them, but from what? From becoming attached to someone who will leave them? Or am I protecting myself from loving them too much? Emma sank into James's chair, tears streaming down her face as she realized he had been present in their lives after all, watching from a distance, never introducing himself. She flipped through more pages, finding entries about school events, soccer games, even notes about driving past their house just to see the lights on inside. James had been a shadow in their lives, observing but never participating. As she reached for another journal, a security alert sounded from the computer on the desk. A video feed appeared showing the main gates opening. A black car drove through, heading toward the main house. Rebecca had arrived, unannounced and uninvited. Emma quickly returned the journals to their hiding place and closed the compartment. She needed more time to understand what she'd found, but Rebecca couldn't know about the journals yet. She turned off the lights and locked the study door behind her just as she heard high heels clicking on marble in the main hallway. "What are you doing in my brother's house?" Rebecca demanded, her voice echoing through the grand entrance. Emma steeled herself for the confrontation, the key to James's private study tucked safely in her pocket. The truth about why James had stayed away from his daughters was hidden in those journals, and she would need that truth to fight for her children's inheritance. "I asked you a question," Rebecca said, stepping closer. "What are you doing in James's house?" Emma kept her hand in her pocket, fingers wrapped around the study key. "Michael brought me to collect some personal items for the girls, things James wanted them to have. And you just let yourself into private areas?" Rebecca's eyes narrowed. "Security alerted me that someone entered the main house. I have every right to be here." "Actually," Michael said, appearing from the hallway, "Emma has full legal access to all Harrison properties as trustee for the girls. You, on the other hand, no longer live here, Rebecca." Rebecca's face flushed with anger. "This legal farce won't stand. My lawyers have already filed to contest the will." "I know," Emma said quietly. "I received the papers." Michael placed a hand on Emma's shoulder. "We should go. The girls are waiting." As they walked toward the door, Rebecca called after them. "Enjoy playing Lady of the Manor while you can, Emma. This time, 2 weeks from now, you'll be back in your little apartment where you belong." 2 weeks later, Emma sat nervously in the Westbrook County Courthouse, waiting for the first hearing in Rebecca's lawsuit. Michael and their new lawyer, Sarah Rodriguez, sat beside her, reviewing documents. "Remember," Sarah whispered, "Judge Patterson just needs to decide if Rebecca's case has enough merit to proceed to trial. Stay calm no matter what her lawyers say." Emma nodded, smoothing her simple gray dress. She had spent every night for the past 2 weeks reading James's journals, discovering a man she never truly knew, a man who had been present in their lives far more than she realized, always watching from a distance. The courtroom doors opened, and Rebecca entered with 3 expensive-looking lawyers. She wore a perfectly tailored suit and didn't even glance in Emma's direction. "All rise for the Honorable Judge William Patterson," the bailiff announced. The judge, a stern man with white hair, took his seat and reviewed the papers before him. "This is preliminary hearing case number 8765-B, Harrison v. Parker, regarding the contested will of James Robert Harrison." He looked up. "Counselors, your opening statements, please." Rebecca's lead lawyer stood. "Your Honor, Rebecca Harrison is contesting this will on grounds of undue influence. James Harrison was diagnosed with terminal cancer and was on heavy medication during the period when this suspicious new will was created. Ms. Parker, who had limited contact with Mr. Harrison for years, suddenly convinced him to leave his entire fortune, over $2 billion, to her control. This is clearly a case of a vulnerable man being manipulated in his final days." Sarah stood next. "Your Honor, James Harrison was of sound mind when he created this will. 2 independent physicians certified his competence. Furthermore, Mr. Harrison's intention was always to provide for his 3 daughters. Ms. Parker is merely the trustee of their inheritance, not the beneficiary. The children are Mr. Harrison's only direct descendants and natural heirs." The arguments continued for another hour. When the hearing finally ended, the judge ruled that the case could proceed to trial, setting a court date for 3 months later. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed around Emma. "Miss Parker, did you know James Harrison was dying when you convinced him to change his will? Were you aware of his cancer diagnosis when you asked for money? How long had Mr. Harrison been sick?" Emma froze, the word cancer hitting her like a physical blow. Michael quickly guided her through the crowd to his waiting car. "You knew," Emma said once they were safely inside. "You knew he had cancer for 2 years and you never told me. The girls deserved to know their father was dying." Michael gripped the steering wheel tightly. "James made me promise he was my best friend. And those are his children. They had a right to spend time with him before he died." Michael pulled the car onto a quiet side street and turned to face her. "James was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer that has a genetic component. His father died from it at 40, his grandfather too. He was terrified the girls might have inherited the gene. Emma stared at him. What are you saying? He had the girls tested every year during those annual checkups he required as part of their support agreement. Remember? He insisted they see that specific doctor. Those were cancer screenings? Emma's voice rose in disbelief. He was testing my daughters for cancer without telling me? For the genetic marker, yes. He was terrified they might have it. When the last tests came back negative 6 months ago, he was finally ready to reconnect with them. But by then his own cancer had progressed too far. Emma covered her mouth with her hand. All those years he stayed away. He thought he was protecting them from getting attached to a father who would die young, just like his father did to him. Michael reached for a file in his back seat. Here are copies of all their test results. They're healthy, Emma. None of them have the marker. Back at the guest house, Emma found Sophie sitting at the kitchen table with a laptop watching videos of James giving a technology presentation. He was really smart, Sophie said without looking up. He invented the security system that's in most airports now. Emma sat beside her daughter. Yes, he was brilliant. Why didn't he want to know us? Sophie asked, her voice small despite her attempt to sound tough. Before Emma could answer, Lily called from the living room. Mom, come quick, we're on TV. Emma rushed in to find a news program showing photos of her from her waitressing days. The reporter's voice was serious. Sources close to the Harrison family have provided evidence that Emma Parker repeatedly asked for money from the billionaire, including this email where she requested funds for private school tuition. On screen appeared a copy of an email Emma had sent 3 years ago, asking James if he would consider helping with the girls' education costs. That's not fair, Olivia cried. You only asked because my teacher said I needed special reading help. Emma turned off the TV. Rebecca is trying to make me look bad so she can take your father's money. But the truth is, your father wanted you to have it. How do you know? Sophie asked, joining them. He hardly ever talked to us. Emma hesitated, then made a decision. Come with me. There's something I need to show you. She led the girls to the main house and to the door of James's study. Using the key, she unlocked it and switched on the lights. This was your father's private space. No one was allowed in here except him. She walked to the desk and carefully opened the hidden compartment, removing the journals. And he wrote about you. All the time. He did? Olivia's eyes widened. Emma opened a journal to a page she had marked. Listen to this. Watched Olivia's reading group today from the back of the classroom. Her teacher says she's making progress with her dyslexia. I've authorized additional funding for the school's reading program through my foundation, making sure she gets the help she needs without Emma knowing it came from me. Olivia's mouth dropped open. He was at my school? Emma nodded. He went to your events, your games. He watched from a distance. But why didn't he talk to us? Lily asked. I think he was afraid, Emma said gently. Afraid of getting close to you and then leaving you. Because he was sick? Sophie asked. Yes, Emma admitted. And because his own father died when he was young. It hurt him very much. That night, after the girls were asleep, Emma continued reading the journals by lamplight. One entry made her gasp. Rebecca came to see me today. She brought another stack of evidence that Emma is only interested in my money. An email asking for school tuition, medical bills she sent to my office, as if a mother asking for support for her children is somehow wrong. Rebecca never understood that Emma turned down the millions I offered her to walk away years ago. All Emma ever asked for was that I be part of the girls' lives, the one thing I couldn't give them. Emma closed the journal, understanding flooding through her. James had wanted to protect the girls from his illness, while Rebecca had worked to keep him away from them for entirely different reasons. Her phone rang, startling her. Michael's name appeared on the screen. Emma, turn on the news. Rebecca just held a press conference. She released James's medical records to the media. Emma quickly pulled up the news on her tablet. There was Rebecca, standing at a podium surrounded by reporters. "My beloved brother was not himself in his final months," Rebecca was saying, her voice catching with practiced emotion. "These medical records show the strong medications he was taking. His judgment was impaired when he made these decisions about his estate." The camera cut to a medical expert commenting, "These particular cancer treatments don't typically affect cognitive function. Patients usually maintain full mental capacity." Rebecca looked momentarily flustered before recovering. Nevertheless, James was not making rational decisions. He had barely seen these children in 8 years. Emma turned off the tablet, a new determination filling her. Rebecca was fighting dirty, but now Emma had something powerful on her side. The truth, written in James's own hand. On the desk lay a calendar James had kept, marking school events, soccer games, and dance recitals he had attended secretly. Next to it was a thumb drive Emma had found labeled "Security Footage, Girls' Visits." She plugged it into the computer and gasped as video appeared showing James watching recordings of the girls' school performances, tears streaming down his face. The truth about why James stayed away was far more complicated than anyone knew, and Emma now had proof that would change everything about their legal battle. Emma sat in James's study until early morning, watching video after video of him observing his daughters from afar. In one particularly painful clip, James sat in his car outside their old house on Christmas morning, watching through the window as the girls opened presents. "Why did you stay away?" Emma whispered to the screen. Her phone rang, startling her. It was Sarah Rodriguez, their lawyer. "Emma, I just received a notice from Rebecca's legal team. They're claiming—" Sarah paused. "This is ridiculous, but they're claiming that DNA tests might show that at least one of the triplets isn't James's biological child." "What?" Emma stood up, knocking over a stack of journals. "That's completely false. All 3 girls are James's children." "I know, but they've filed a motion requesting mandatory DNA testing before the case proceeds." "This is just another attempt to embarrass me," Emma said. "But fine, let them test. The girls are James's daughters." 3 days later, a medical technician arrived at the guest house to collect DNA samples from the triplets. The girls sat nervously on the couch as the woman prepared the cheek swabs. "Will it hurt?" Olivia asked, watching with wide eyes. "Not at all," the technician said. "Just a quick swipe inside your cheek." Sophie crossed her arms. "This is stupid. We all look exactly like Dad." Lily, always practical, went first. "It's just science," she said as the swab touched her inner cheek. "The test will prove we're his." After the technician left, Emma decided to continue exploring James's study while the girls were distracted with homework. Something about the room had been bothering her. Its dimensions seemed off compared to the hallway outside. She ran her hands along the bookshelves, noticing how some books were dusty while others looked frequently handled. Pulling on one particularly clean book, she was startled when a clicking sound came from the wall. A section of the bookshelf swung inward, revealing a hidden door. "Oh my God," Emma whispered, reaching for the light switch inside. The room illuminated to reveal walls covered with photographs of the girls, hundreds of them, from their birth to just months before James died. School pictures, sports games, dance recitals, all taken from a distance. A timeline stretched across one wall marking milestones in each girl's life. Sophie, first coding class, age 7. Lily, science fair winner, grade 2. Olivia, overcame reading difficulties, started chapter books. On shelves against another wall sat wrapped presents, birthday and Christmas gifts for each year of the girls' lives, all labeled but never delivered. Tears streamed down Emma's face as she realized the extent of James's secret involvement in his daughters' lives. She picked up a small notebook from a desk in the corner. Inside, James had jotted observations. "Olivia has my mother's artistic talent. Found a program at the community center and anonymously funded her scholarship. Sophie fixed the neighbor's computer. She has my technical mind. Must make sure the elementary school has proper equipment. Lily asked questions about genetic science at the museum exhibit. Reminds me of my Uncle David, the researcher. Emma sat on the floor, surrounded by evidence of James's love for his daughters, a love he'd never been able to express directly. Her phone buzzed with a text from Michael. DNA results in. All three confirmed as James's biological children. Rebecca changing tactics now. The next morning, Emma met with Sarah and Michael at Sarah's office to discuss their next steps. Rebecca's new claim is that James wasn't mentally competent when he changed his will 6 months before his death, Sarah explained. She's submitted affidavits from his housekeeper and driver saying he seemed confused sometimes. That's not true, Emma insisted. His journals from that time are perfectly coherent. The journals will help, Sarah nodded. But we need someone who was with James professionally during that period. Someone who can testify about his mental state. What about Thomas Clark? Emma asked. James's personal assistant? Michael frowned. I've been trying to reach him. He left Harrison Technologies right after James died. Rebecca fired him, actually. Why would she do that? Emma asked. He was extremely loyal to James. Michael explained. Rebecca probably saw him as a threat. Later that afternoon, Michael called Emma with news. I found Thomas. He contacted me from a burner phone. Says he has information that could help you, but is afraid of Rebecca's influence. Can we meet him? Emma asked. He wants to. I set something up for tomorrow at a coffee shop downtown. I'll be there. When Emma returned to the guest house, she found the triplets huddled around a laptop in the kitchen. Mom, look what we found! Sophie pointed to the screen. It's Dad giving a presentation about computer security. Emma watched over their shoulders as James paced across a stage, confidently explaining complex technology in simple terms. He sounds smart, Lily observed, like Sophie when she explains computer stuff. I have his voice, Sophie said proudly, and Lily has his eyebrows. Olivia has his hands. Why didn't he ever talk to us like that? Olivia asked quietly. He seems nice in this video. Emma sat down beside them. Your father was complicated. He wanted to know you, but he was afraid. Of what? Sophie demanded. Of loving you and then leaving you, Emma said gently. He knew he was sick for a long time before he died. The girls were quiet, processing this information. Finally, Lily spoke. Can we see more videos of him? Yes, Emma said. And there's something else I need to show you tomorrow. That night, Emma received another call from Michael. Thomas never showed up for our meeting, he said, his voice tense. I waited 2 hours. What happened? I just found out. Rebecca's contacts offered him a job with a technology firm in Singapore. 6-figure salary, immediate start. He's on a plane right now. She bought him off, Emma said, frustration building inside her. Maybe. Or scared him off. Either way, we've lost our best witness to James's mental state. The next morning, Emma took the girls to the main house. It was time they saw the hidden room. Is this where Dad worked? Olivia asked as they entered the study. Yes, but there's something special he kept secret. Emma walked to the bookshelf and activated the hidden door. The girls gasped as it swung open, revealing the wall of photographs. That's me! Sophie exclaimed, pointing to a picture of herself at a computer workshop. I never saw him there! And here's my dance recital, Olivia said, touching a photo where she wore a purple tutu. He came to that? Lily moved to the shelf of wrapped presents, picking up one with her name. Can I open this? Emma nodded. They're yours. He bought them, but never gave them to you. Lily carefully unwrapped the package to reveal a science kit with a handwritten note. For my curious Lily, who asked the museum guide so many wonderful questions about DNA. Love, Dad. Her eyes filled with tears. He was there that day. I remember asking those questions. As the girls explored the room, Emma's phone rang. It was Sarah. Rebecca just released James's medical records to the press, she said. She's claiming his treatment impaired his judgment. But that's not true, Emma replied. The oncologist told me his medication wouldn't affect his mental capacity. I know. Medical experts are already contradicting her claims on the news. This might actually backfire on her. After hanging up, Emma watched her daughters moving through the hidden room, discovering their father's secret love for them. Sophie found a laptop on the desk and turned it on. Mom, there are videos here labeled with our names. Emma moved to her side. Let's watch them together. On screen appeared James, looking thin but alert, recording from this very room. Sophie, Lily, Olivia, he began. If you're watching this, then I'm gone and your mother has found what I left for her. There's so much I need to explain to you about why I stayed away. As James's voice filled the room, a security alert sounded on his computer. Live video appeared in the corner of the screen showing Rebecca arriving at the main gate with several men in suits. The alert message flashed, Rebecca Harrison plus 4 individuals, destination, main house. Emma quickly saved the video to a USB drive. Girls, we need to go back to the guest house right now. Your Aunt Rebecca is coming and we're not supposed to be in here. But we just started watching Dad's message, Sophie protested. We'll finish it at home, Emma promised, ushering them toward the door. Quickly now. They barely made it out of the study, Emma locking the door behind them when the front door of the mansion opened. Rebecca's voice echoed through the marble foyer. I don't care what the will says. I have a court order to search my brother's study for evidence. Those journals and videos belong to the Harrison family, not to her. Emma pressed her finger to her lips, guiding the girls toward the back staircase. The USB drive containing James's message to his daughters felt heavy in her pocket. One more piece of truth Rebecca couldn't be allowed to find. Emma and the girls slipped out the back door of the mansion just as Rebecca and her team entered the study. From behind a large hedge, they watched through the window as Rebecca instructed the men to search every inch of the room. She can't find the hidden door, Sophie whispered. I don't think she knows it exists, Emma replied. Your father kept that room secret from everyone. They hurried back to the guest house where Emma immediately called Michael. Rebecca is searching James's study with a team of lawyers, she said, breathing hard. They have some kind of court order. I'm on my way, Michael responded. Don't let them into the guest house no matter what. That's not covered in their order. 20 minutes later, Michael arrived, followed shortly by Rebecca and 2 lawyers. Emma watched from the window as Michael blocked their path to the front door. The court order only covers James's personal study, Michael said firmly, not the guest house where his children live. We found nothing in the study, Rebecca snapped. She must have removed evidence. Those journals Walter saw on the desk are gone. You have no right to enter this residence, Michael insisted. Leave now, or I'll call the sheriff for trespassing. Rebecca glared toward the house before turning on her heel. This isn't over. After they left, Michael joined Emma inside. The girls were in their room watching the video from James on Emma's laptop. They didn't find the hidden room, Emma told him, but they took his computer and some files. Michael ran a hand through his salt and pepper hair. Emma, it's time to stop playing defense. Rebecca is fighting dirty and she has resources. What can I do? I'm just trying to protect the girls. We need our own legal strategy, Michael said. I've arranged for you to meet with Sarah Rodriguez tomorrow. She's tough, specializes in estate disputes, and isn't afraid of the Harrison name. The next morning, Emma left the girls with a trusted babysitter and drove to Sarah's office in downtown Westbrook. The building was much less impressive than the gleaming tower that housed Rebecca's lawyers, but the woman who greeted Emma radiated confidence. Thank you for coming, Emma, Sarah said, shaking her hand firmly. I've reviewed your case, and while Rebecca has money and influence on her side, we have something better, the truth. Emma sat across from Sarah's desk, twisting her hands nervously. I don't know how to fight someone like Rebecca. That's why you hired me, Sarah smiled. First, we need to document everything in that hidden room. Photos, videos, the presents, the timeline, all of it proves James was mentally sound and genuinely cared for his daughters. "I've started reading through his journals," Emma said. "There's so much there. He tracked every event in the girls' lives." "Perfect," Sarah nodded. "Second, we need witness testimony about James's mental state when he changed his will." Michael mentioned his personal assistant, Thomas Clark. Rebecca scared him off, offered him a job in Singapore. Sarah frowned. "We'll keep looking for him. In the meantime, I want you to record video statements about your history with James, everything from how you met to the last time you saw him. We need to show the court that you never tried to manipulate him for money." After the meeting, Emma felt more hopeful than she had in weeks. Having a plan made her feel stronger. She returned to find Sophie intently watching a TED Talk James had given 3 years earlier about technology innovation. "He explains things the way I do," Sophie said without looking away from the screen. "Mom, I think I want to learn more about computers like Dad." "I think he'd like that," Emma smiled. Later that afternoon, Emma set up the video camera Sarah had given her and began recording her testimony. "My name is Emma Parker," she began. "I met James Harrison 8 years ago at a charity event where I was working as a server. He wasn't like other wealthy guests. He helped me clean up a tray I dropped instead of complaining." Emma recorded for hours, documenting their brief relationship, her pregnancy, and James's reaction. "When I told him I was expecting, he was shocked but not angry. He immediately offered financial support but was clear he wasn't ready for fatherhood. When the doctor told us we were having triplets, James looked terrified." She explained how James had supported them financially but remained emotionally distant, sending birthday and Christmas gifts, but rarely visiting. The last time James saw the girls in person was their 3rd birthday. He stayed for 20 minutes. He seemed uncomfortable watching them from across the room rather than interacting. "I never understood why until I found his journals and learned about his illness." After finishing the recordings, Emma called Michael with an idea. "James's journals mention offers he made me large sums of money if I would give up custody and disappear. I turned them all down. Would those offers be documented somewhere?" "Definitely," Michael replied. "James kept records of everything. I'll check his business files." 2 days later, Michael arrived with a stack of papers. "I found them all," he said, spreading the documents on the kitchen table. 3 separate offers over 8 years. The last one, when the girls were 5, was for $5 million. You rejected them all." Emma nodded. "I never wanted his money. I just wanted the girls to know their father." "These will help our case enormously," Michael said. "They directly contradict Rebecca's gold digger narrative." "What about Thomas Clark?" Emma asked. Michael sighed. "I've been trying to track him. He never boarded the flight to Singapore. I think he's still local, possibly hiding." While the adults worked on legal strategy, the triplets were processing their discoveries about their father in their own ways. Lily spent hours studying the genetic information in James's files, fascinated by the science behind his illness. "Dad had a gene mutation that caused his cancer," she explained to her sisters. "That's why he was afraid we might get sick too." Olivia watched videos of James at charity events, noticing his kindness toward staff and his genuine interest in helping others. "He funded a whole hospital wing for children," she told Emma proudly. Sophie, meanwhile, had convinced Michael to get her coding books. "Dad created his first program when he was 10, she said. "I'm already 8, so I need to catch up." One evening, Emma found Olivia sitting alone in her room, holding a wrapped gift from the hidden room, a beautiful doll James had bought for her 6th birthday but never delivered. "Why didn't he just tell us he was sick?" Olivia asked, tears in her eyes. "We wouldn't have been mad." Emma sat beside her daughter. "Adults sometimes make mistakes when they're scared. Your father was afraid of hurting you by letting you love him and then leaving." "But he hurt us by staying away," Olivia said softly. "Yes," Emma agreed. "That was his biggest mistake." The next morning, Sarah called with alarming news. Rebecca held a press conference. She released James's medical records to suggest his cancer treatment affected his decision-making. Emma turned on the television to see Rebecca speaking to reporters outside Harrison Technologies headquarters. "These medical records clearly show my brother was taking strong medication that impaired his judgment," Rebecca said, her voice catching with practiced emotion. "He was not himself when he made these decisions." The screen cut to a medical expert being interviewed. "These particular cancer treatments don't typically affect cognitive function. Patients usually maintain full mental capacity throughout this protocol." "She's getting desperate," Sarah said over the phone. "This could backfire on her." That afternoon, Michael arrived with more good news. "I found documentation in James's financial records. He made anonymous donations to the girls' school, their extracurricular programs, even funded Olivia's reading specialist, all without telling you. He was involved in their lives from a distance," Emma realized. "Exactly," Michael nodded. "And I've got something else. I found an address that might be where Thomas is hiding. I'm going to check it tomorrow." That night, after the girls were asleep, Emma spent hours organizing the evidence they'd collected. Journals, photos, videos, financial records. She created a timeline showing James's cancer diagnosis, the negative genetic test results for the girls, and the date he changed his will, all supporting their case that he made his decisions with clear intention. Her phone rang near midnight. It was Sarah. "Turn on your TV. Rebecca's medical records stunt completely backfired. Medical experts are contradicting her claims all over the news." Emma watched as a respected oncologist explained that James's treatment wouldn't have affected his cognitive abilities. "Based on these records," the doctor said, "Mr. Harrison would have been fully capable of making complex decisions throughout his treatment." For the first time since the battle began, Emma felt the tide turning in their favor. Rebecca had overplayed her hand, and the truth about James was finally emerging. As Emma turned off the TV, her phone chimed with a text from Michael. "Found something critical. USB drive hidden in Thomas's desk at Harrison Technologies. Contains video labeled, 'James's Final Testimony. Meeting you tomorrow morning.'" Emma stared at the message, her heart racing. One more piece of the puzzle was about to fall into place. James's own words, recorded before his death, might finally end Rebecca's fight to steal his children's inheritance. Emma could hardly sleep that night. By 7 o'clock the next morning, she was already waiting at the kitchen table when Michael arrived, holding a small USB drive in his hand. "Where did you find it?" Emma asked as Michael plugged the drive into her laptop. "Hidden in a false bottom of Thomas's desk drawer at Harrison Technologies," Michael explained. "I went there after hours using my old security clearance. Rebecca hasn't thought to remove it yet." A video file appeared on screen labeled "James' Final Testimony." Michael clicked play, and James Harrison's face filled the screen. He looked thin but alert, sitting in his study. The date stamp showed it was recorded just 3 weeks before his death. "I, James Robert Harrison, am recording this video of sound mind and body to clarify my wishes regarding my estate," James began, his voice steady. "I have recently updated my will to leave my entire fortune to my 3 daughters, Sophie, Lily, and Olivia, with their mother, Emma Parker, as trustee. I make this decision with full awareness and clear intention." James continued, explaining his reasons clearly and logically, until suddenly the video cut off mid-sentence. "That's it?" Emma asked, staring at the blank screen. "Where's the rest?" "This is only part of it," Michael said. "I think Thomas has the complete version. He's sending us a message by leaving this partial clip, showing us he has evidence that could help." "But where is he?" Emma asked. "You said he never went to Singapore." "I have a lead," Michael replied. "James owned a small cabin in the Berkshires that almost no one knows about. He and I went fishing there in college. I'm going to check it today." Sarah arrived 20 minutes later, watching the partial video with growing excitement. "This is excellent," she said. "Even this short segment proves James was mentally competent when he changed his will. We should file it as evidence immediately." "What about the missing portion?" Emma asked. "It suggests there's more favorable evidence we don't yet have," Sarah explained. "The judge might delay proceedings to allow us time to locate the complete testimony." Later that morning, while Michael drove to the Berkshires, Emma received an unexpected call from Walter Phillips, Rebecca's attorney. "Ms. Parker, Rebecca has authorized me to offer a settlement," he said, his voice formal but tired. "She will stop contesting the will if you agree to a revised distribution. 25% of the estate goes to the girls, with Rebecca retaining control of Harrison Technologies." Emma didn't hesitate. "No. My daughters receive what their father wanted them to have. All of it." "This is a generous offer," Walter pressed. 25% of James's fortune is still over $600 million. Your daughters would be extremely wealthy." "It's not about the money," Emma replied. "It's about respecting James's wishes and his relationship with his daughters. A relationship Rebecca actively tried to destroy, as I've recently discovered." There was silence on the line. "What do you mean?" Walter finally asked. "I found letters in James's study. Letters my daughters wrote to their father years ago that were intercepted and never delivered to him. Letters Rebecca kept from him." The call ended shortly after, with Walter promising to relay her rejection of the offer. When Emma told Sarah about the settlement offer, the lawyer smiled. "Rebecca's getting nervous. She knows her case is weakening. The judge has scheduled a hearing in 2 weeks," Sarah continued. "Thomas Clark is on the witness list. If we can find him by then, his testimony about James's mental state could end this case." While the adults focused on the legal battle, the triplets were discovering more about their father. Emma found Sophie watching James's technology presentations on her laptop. "He explains things exactly like I do," Sophie said proudly. "Look, he even moves his hands the same way when he talks about coding." In the garden, Lily had set up the microscope from the birthday gift James had never delivered. "Dad's journals say he got interested in biology when he was my age too," she told Emma. "I'm studying cells like he did." Olivia, meanwhile, had found James's charity foundation files and was carefully reading about the children's hospital wing he had funded. "He helped kids with cancer," she said quietly, "because he had cancer too." Emma hugged her daughter. "Yes, he did. He wanted to make sure other children got good care." That evening, Michael called from the Berkshires. "I found the cabin, and there are signs someone's been staying here, but no one's here now. I'm going to wait and see if Thomas returns." The next morning, Emma received another call from Sarah. "Rebecca's made another move. She's released photos of you from your waitressing days to the tabloids." Emma quickly found the story online. There she was, years younger, serving drinks at an upscale charity event. The photos were carefully selected to look suggestive. Emma leaning toward male patrons, smiling, one shot capturing her laughing with James the night they met. The headline read, "The Waitress Who Seduced a Billionaire. Emma Parker's Gold-Digging Past Revealed." "These are taken completely out of context," Emma said, anger rising in her throat. "This was my job." "She's desperate," Sarah replied. "The DNA tests confirmed the girls are James's children. The medical experts contradicted her claims about his mental state. She's just trying to damage your reputation now." When the girls returned from their tutor that afternoon, Sophie stormed into the kitchen, face flushed with anger. "The tutor showed us the pictures of you on her phone," she said. "She asked if we knew our mom used to be a waitress who chased rich men." Emma felt her heart drop. "What did you say?" "I told her my dad was the one who asked you out after you served his table," Sophie replied fiercely. "I told her she shouldn't believe everything she reads." Emma hugged her daughter tightly. "Thank you for defending me." "Is it true you were a waitress when you met Dad?" Lily asked. "Yes," Emma admitted. "I was working 2 jobs to pay for college. I served at fancy parties on weekends. Your father was a guest at a charity event, and we started talking when I served his table." "Was it love at first sight?" Olivia asked, always the romantic. Emma smiled sadly. "Not exactly. But we did like each other right away. We dated for almost a year before I got pregnant with you 3. That night, Emma's phone rang just as she finished putting the girls to bed. It was Michael, his voice hushed and excited. "I found Thomas," he said. "He came back to the cabin an hour ago. I approached him, and after some convincing, he's agreed to talk. Emma, he has the complete video testimony from James." "Is he willing to testify?" Emma asked, heart pounding. "Yes, but he's terrified of Rebecca. She threatened his career, his reputation. That's why he's been hiding." "What does the full video say?" Emma asked. "Thomas wouldn't show me yet," Michael replied. "He says there's personal messages for the girls too. He wants to meet you tomorrow. I'm bringing him back to Westbrook tonight." The next day, Emma met Michael and Thomas at a small coffee shop outside of town. Thomas looked nervous, constantly glancing toward the door. "Thank you for meeting me," Emma said. "You worked with James for how long?" 7 years, Thomas replied. "I was his personal assistant. I knew everything about his schedule, his projects, even his illness before most people did." "Did you know about his daughters?" Emma asked. Thomas nodded. "He talked about them all the time. Had me purchase gifts for their birthdays and Christmas, though he never delivered them. Asked for reports whenever he sent me to observe their school events. He sent you to watch them?" Emma was surprised. "When he became too ill to go himself," Thomas explained. "He couldn't risk being recognized in the later stages of his cancer, but he wanted updates on their activities." Thomas pulled out a USB drive. "This is the complete testimony. James recorded it in segments over his final month. He made me promise to keep it safe until it was needed." Emma took the drive with trembling fingers. "Why didn't you come forward sooner?" "Rebecca threatened me," Thomas admitted. "Said she'd claim I helped James embezzle company funds if I testified. But after seeing what she's doing to you and the girls in the press, I couldn't stay silent." Back at the guest house, Emma, Michael, and Sarah watched the complete video. James spoke for nearly an hour, clearly explaining his wishes for his estate, his reasons for selecting Emma as trustee, and his hopes for his daughter's futures. Most devastating was the section addressing his sister directly. "Rebecca, I know you've never approved of Emma or accepted my daughters. I know you intercepted the letters they wrote me. Yes, I found them in your desk. I know you tried to convince me Emma only wanted my money, but you were wrong. The millions I offered for her to walk away, she refused, only asking that I be part of their lives. The one request I was too much of a coward to fulfill." Sarah stopped the video, her expression triumphant. "This is exactly what we need. Clear evidence of his intentions, his mental clarity, and his awareness of Rebecca's interference. With this video and Thomas's testimony, the case is basically over." Emma stared at the frozen image of James on the screen. He knew. He knew Rebecca was keeping him from us all along. "The hearing is in 10 days, Sarah said. "I'll prepare Thomas for his testimony." Rebecca won't know what hit her. That night, after everyone had left, Emma watched the final part of James's video, the personal messages he'd recorded for each of his daughters. Tears streamed down her face as she listened to him speak directly to the girls, telling them how proud he was of them, how he had watched them grow from afar, how his greatest regret was not being brave enough to be part of their lives. Tomorrow she would show the girls their father's messages. For now she sat alone with the knowledge that James had loved them all along, even if he hadn't known how to show it. The next morning, Emma gathered the girls in the living room of the guest house. Their eyes widened as she set up the laptop. "Your father left special messages for each of you," she explained. "Private words he recorded before he died. Are you ready to see them?" The girls nodded solemnly. Emma clicked play, and James's face appeared on screen. "Sophie," he began, looking directly at the camera, "my brilliant, determined daughter. I've watched you solve puzzles since you were tiny. The way your mind works reminds me so much of myself at your age. I've seen you fix the neighbor's computer. Yes, I was parked across the street that day. I'm so proud of your quick thinking and how you stand up for what's right." Sophie sat perfectly still, tears sliding down her face. James continued with messages for each girl, praising Lily's scientific curiosity and Olivia's kind heart. He acknowledged that he had failed them by staying away. "I made the worst mistake a father could make," he said. "I thought I was protecting you from pain, but instead I caused it. I hope someday you can forgive me." When the video ended, the girls sat quietly, processing their father's words. "He really did know us," Lily finally said. "He was there all along," Olivia added softly. Sophie wiped her tears. "Why are we only seeing this now? Why didn't anyone show us before?" Before Emma could answer, her phone rang. It was Walter Phillips, Rebecca's attorney. "Ms. Parker, I need to meet with you privately. Today. It's urgent and must remain confidential." Emma was suspicious. "Why would I meet with you alone?" "I have information that will end this case immediately," Walter replied, "but I can only deliver it in person, away from both Rebecca and Michael." After arranging childcare, Emma drove to a 24-hour diner on the edge of town. It was nearly empty at midnight. Walter sat in a back booth, looking anxious and tired. "Thank you for coming," he said, as Emma slid into the seat across from him. "What's so important that we need to meet secretly at midnight?" Emma asked. Walter glanced around, then pulled a folder from his briefcase. "I'm representing Rebecca against my better judgment and professional ethics. I've known the Harrison family for 30 years, but what Rebecca's doing now crosses a line." He pushed the folder toward Emma. Inside were bank statements, transfer records, and offshore account details. "Rebecca has been embezzling from Harrison Technologies for years," Walter said quietly. "James discovered it shortly before his death but hadn't confronted her yet. She's taken millions." Emma stared at the documents. "Why are you showing me this?" "Rebecca's desperate fight for control isn't just about power or spite. She needs to prevent a full audit that would expose her crimes." Walter leaned forward. "I'm offering you a deal. If you agree not to press charges against Rebecca for the embezzlement, I'll convince her to drop her lawsuit contesting the will." Emma gathered the papers. "I need to think about this." "Don't take too long," Walter warned. "The hearing is in 3 days." Emma drove straight to Michael's apartment, calling him from the car. He was waiting at the door when she arrived. "Walter gave you these?" Michael asked, examining the financial documents spread across his kitchen table. "Yes. Can you verify if they're legitimate?" Michael made several calls to contacts at Harrison Technologies. By 3 in the morning, he had confirmation. "It's true," he told Emma. "Rebecca has been siphoning company funds into personal accounts for at least 5 years. James noticed discrepancies about 8 months ago and was quietly investigating." Emma paced the small kitchen. "Walter wants me to agree not to press charges if Rebecca drops the lawsuit." "Is that enough for you?" Michael asked. Emma stopped pacing. "No. Rebecca publicly attacked me, called me a gold digger, and tried to steal my children's inheritance. If she wants this to go away, she needs to do more than just drop the lawsuit. She needs to publicly apologize and resign from Harrison Technologies." "That's going to be a hard sell," Michael warned. "She's facing potential criminal charges," Emma replied. "I think she'll agree." The morning of the hearing arrived with the courthouse surrounded by reporters. Emma wore a simple blue dress Sarah had suggested, while the triplets stayed home with their tutor. Michael and Sarah walked on either side of Emma as they pushed through the crowd. Inside, the courtroom was packed. Rebecca sat at her table, surrounded by attorneys looking confident in an expensive suit. She barely glanced at Emma. Judge Patterson entered and everyone rose. "Be seated," he said. "This is the continuation of Harrison versus Parker regarding the contested will of James Robert Harrison." Sarah stood. "Your Honor, the defense calls Thomas Clark as our first witness." Rebecca's expression flickered with surprise as Thomas entered the courtroom. He walked nervously to the witness stand and was sworn in. "Mr. Clark, what was your position with James Harrison?" Sarah began. "I was his personal assistant for 7 years, until his death." And how would you describe Mr. Harrison's mental state in the 6 months before he died? Thomas straightened. He was completely lucid. His body was failing, but his mind remained sharp until the end. He worked every day, made complex business decisions, and was particularly focused on his estate planning. Did Mr. Harrison ever explain why he was leaving his fortune to his daughters with Emma Parker as trustee? Yes. He said he had failed them as a father in life and wanted to ensure their future. He trusted Emma completely. He said she was the only person who ever loved him for himself, not his money. Rebecca's attorney objected, claiming hearsay, but Sarah was prepared. Your Honor, we have video evidence of James Harrison explaining his decisions in his own words. She motioned for the court technician. This video was recorded by Mr. Harrison 3 weeks before his death. The large screen at the front of the courtroom lit up with James's face. For the next 45 minutes, the courtroom sat in complete silence as James clearly explained his wishes, his regret about his relationship with his daughters, and directly addressed Rebecca's attempts to keep him away from his family. When James mentioned finding the girls' intercepted letters in Rebecca's desk, several jurors glanced at Rebecca with obvious disapproval. By the time the video ended with James's emotional plea for Rebecca to accept his daughters, many in the courtroom were wiping away tears. No further questions for this witness, Sarah said. Rebecca's lead attorney rose for cross-examination but appeared flustered. As he approached the witness stand, Michael quickly wrote a note and passed it to Sarah, who immediately requested a brief recess. Your Honor, before cross-examination begins, may we request a 15-minute recess? New information has just come to our attention. The judge agreed, and the courtroom emptied. Sarah immediately led Emma, Michael, and Walter to a private conference room. Rebecca followed, demanding to know what was happening. Walter placed the folder of financial documents on the table. Rebecca, they know about the embezzlement. James knew too. Rebecca's face drained of color. That's ridiculous. What embezzlement? Walter opened the folder, showing her the evidence. James was investigating before he died. Emma has agreed not to pursue criminal charges on one condition. What condition? Rebecca asked, her voice barely audible. You withdraw your lawsuit today, Michael explained. You publicly apologize for your claims against Emma and you resign from Harrison Technologies. Rebecca stared at the documents, then at Emma. You do that? Not press charges? For the girls' sake, Emma said. They've been through enough public drama. But I won't let you continue to attack me or try to take what James wanted them to have. When court resumed 15 minutes later, Rebecca's attorney stood. Your Honor, my client wishes to withdraw her petition contesting the will of James Harrison. A murmur swept through the courtroom. The judge looked surprised. Is this true, Ms. Harrison? Rebecca stood, visibly shaken. Yes, Your Honor. I've reconsidered my position in light of new evidence. I withdraw my lawsuit and acknowledge the validity of my brother's will. The court accepts your withdrawal, Judge Patterson said. However, given the public nature of your claims against Ms. Parker, I believe a statement of clarification is in order. Rebecca returned to the podium. Her hands gripped the sides as she spoke. I wish to apologize for my misunderstanding of my brother's intentions. After reviewing his video testimony, I accept that he was of sound mind when making his will. I apologize to Emma Parker and my nieces for any distress my actions have caused. Each word seemed painfully extracted, but Emma could see the calculation behind Rebecca's eyes. An apology was a small price to pay compared to criminal charges. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed around Emma. Miss Parker, how do you feel about Rebecca withdrawing her lawsuit? Was there a settlement? Will you now take control of Harrison Technologies? Emma looked into the cameras. James Harrison made his wishes clear. He wanted his daughters to inherit what he built. with me as their trustee until they're old enough to make their own decisions. Today, the legal system respected those wishes. That's all I have to say. As she pushed through the crowd toward Michael's car, Emma noticed a familiar face watching from the edge of the courthouse steps. Thomas Clark nodded slightly before handing her a small envelope and disappearing into the crowd. Inside the car, Emma opened the envelope to find a handwritten note from James, dated just days before his death. Emma, if you're reading this, then Thomas has done as I asked. There's one more thing I couldn't say in the video. Something only for you. Look in the safe behind the painting in my lake house study. The combination is our daughter's birthday. What you find there might help you understand my final gift to all of you. James. Emma stared at the note, wondering what final secret James had left for her to discover. The very next day, Emma drove to James's lake house. She had never visited this property before, a secluded cabin on Lake Quannapowitt, about an hour from Westbrook. Unlike the mansion, this place was modest, made of dark wood with large windows overlooking the water. Using the key James had given her months ago, Emma entered and made her way to the small study. A simple landscape painting hung on the wall behind the desk. Emma carefully removed it, revealing a safe embedded in the wall. Her fingers trembled slightly as she entered the combination, 0315, March 15th, the girl's birthday. The safe opened with a soft click. Inside lay a sealed envelope with Emma, the complete truth, written in James's handwriting. Next to it sat a thick medical file and a small USB drive. Emma opened the letter first, sitting in James's desk chair as she began to read. Dear Emma, by now you know I had cancer. What you don't know is that my illness was genetic, inherited from my father who died when I was 12, just as his father died young before him. This cancer runs in the Harrison men, triggered by a specific gene mutation. When I discovered you were pregnant, my first emotion wasn't fear of responsibility. It was terror that I might have passed this death sentence to our children. After the girls were born, I had them secretly tested during their first regular checkup. I told the doctor it was for a comprehensive health screening. I made the decision then to stay away. I convinced myself it was better for the girls not to form attachments to a father who would die young and leave them with painful memories, as my father had done to me. I thought I was protecting them from future pain. Each year I had them tested again during those annual checkups I required as part of our support agreement. I was waiting, holding my breath, fearing that as they grew, the genetic marker might appear. 6 months ago, their tests finally confirmed what I had hoped for. None of them carry the gene. They are completely free of this curse. I decided then to reconnect with them, to try to make up for lost time. But when I scheduled a complete medical evaluation to make sure I was well enough to enter their lives, I discovered my cancer had returned and spread aggressively. I ran out of time, Emma. By the time I knew they were safe, I was too sick to be the father they deserved. There's one more thing you should know. For the past 3 years, I've been funding a secret division of Harrison Technologies focused on developing a treatment for this specific cancer. The research is promising, but not yet complete. The medical file in the safe contains all the information. I want our daughters to understand why I stayed away. Not to excuse my absence, but so they know it came from love, however misguided. Forgive me for the years I wasted. Forgive me for not trusting you with the truth. James. Emma wiped tears from her cheeks as she finished reading. Everything finally made sense. James's distance, his insistence on those annual checkups, his sudden interest in reconnecting 6 months before his death. She opened the medical file next, finding detailed reports on the girl's genetic testing and documentation about the experimental cancer treatment James had been developing. The research looked highly technical, but Emma could see this was groundbreaking work. Back at the guest house, Emma found Michael waiting. The girls were in the garden with their tutor. "Did you find what you were looking for?" he asked. Emma handed him James's letter. "Read this." Michael's expression shifted from curiosity to understanding as he read. So that's why he stayed away. All these years. He thought he was protecting them, Emma said softly. He was wrong, but he thought he was doing the right thing. What's in the medical file? Michael asked. Information about a cancer treatment James was developing secretly. Michael, I need to understand what this is. Can you help me meet with whoever was working on this project? 2 days later, Emma walked into Harrison Technologies' headquarters for the first time. The massive glass building dominated the Westbrook skyline, a physical representation of James's success. Dr. Alan Meyer, head of the company's medical research division, greeted her in the lobby. Ms. Parker, thank you for reaching out. James's project is our most confidential work. In a secure laboratory area, Dr. Meyer explained the treatment James had been developing. James discovered the gene mutation that causes this cancer in his family 5 years ago, he explained. He immediately funded research to target it. The treatment uses the body's own immune system to attack cells containing the mutation. Is it working? Emma asked. The early trials are promising, Dr. Meyer said. James was too sick to benefit by the time we had initial results, but he continued funding the research anyway. For his daughters, Emma realized, in case any of them developed the cancer later. Yes, but also for others with similar genetic conditions, the doctor explained. This could eventually help thousands of people. Later that week, Emma had another important meeting. As trustee of James's fortune, she needed to meet the Harrison Technologies board of directors, many of whom had supported Rebecca and now had to work with her. The boardroom fell silent as Emma entered. 12 executives in expensive suits stared at her as Michael made introductions. Ms. Parker will be representing the interests of James's daughters, who now own controlling shares of Harrison Technologies, Michael explained. Emma took a deep breath. I want to be clear about my role. I won't interfere with daily business operations. Your expertise runs this company, not me. My only concern is ensuring James's legacy benefits his daughters and continues the good work he started. She noticed several board members relax slightly. I am especially interested in continuing full funding for the Cancer Research Division, Emma continued. Dr. Meyer has briefed me on their progress. The board chairman, Harold Wilson, leaned forward. That project operates at a significant financial loss. Rebecca had suggested scaling it back. That project continues at full funding, Emma said firmly. It was important to James, and it's important to me. After the meeting, Emma knew it was time for the hardest conversation, explaining everything to the girls. Back at the guest house, she gathered the triplets in the living room. I need to tell you the complete truth about your father, she began. Carefully, using simple words, Emma explained about the genetic illness that had killed James's father and grandfather. She told them how James had tested them each year, fearing they might have inherited the same gene. Your father stayed away because he was scared, Emma said gently. He thought he was protecting you. He didn't want you to love him and then lose him young, the way he lost his own dad. But we did lose him, Olivia said, tears in her eyes. We never even knew him. I know, sweetie. He made a mistake. When he found out you were all healthy, he wanted to come back to you, but by then he was too sick. Sophie, always the most outspoken, stood up angrily. That was stupid. We could have had years with him. Now we just have stupid videos and presents he never gave us. She stormed out of the room, slamming her door. Emma let her go, understanding her anger. Lily, practical as always, had questions. So we don't have the bad gene? We won't get sick like Dad? No, sweetheart, you're all healthy. Later that evening, Emma showed the girls the hidden room in James's study again. This time she let them explore freely, finding their own connections to the father they barely knew. Olivia discovered a collection of dolls matching ones she already owned. He knew which ones I liked, she said wonderingly. Lily found scientific journals with notes in the margins. He wrote questions he wanted to ask me about my science projects. Even Sophie, still hurt and angry, found comfort in a shelf of computer books marked with sticky notes. For Sophie when she's ready. The next day, Emma received a call from Walter Phillips. Rebecca would like to meet with you to discuss the embezzlement situation. In Michael's office, Rebecca sat stiffly, avoiding eye contact as Walter explained her proposal. Rebecca will return all misappropriated funds, approximately $12 million, and resign from the company. In exchange, Emma agrees not to press criminal charges. Why should I agree? Emma asked. What you did was criminal. Rebecca finally looked up. For the girls. A public trial would drag the Harrison name through the mud. Is that what you want for your daughters? Emma considered carefully. I'll agree on one additional condition. You will have no contact with my daughters unless they choose to see you in the future. Rebecca nodded stiffly. Agreed. As Rebecca left, Emma turned to Michael. I'm not doing this for her. I'm doing it for the girls. They've been through enough. In the following days, Emma established the James Harrison Foundation for Children's Health Research with $500 million from the estate. The foundation would support Dr. Meyer's cancer treatment research and fund medical care for children with genetic illnesses. One evening, Emma visited James's grave for the first time since the funeral. She placed fresh flowers against the simple headstone. I understand now, she said quietly. I don't agree with your choice, but I understand it. As she stood to leave, her phone rang. It was Dr. Meyer. Miss Parker, I have extraordinary news. The experimental treatment has shown breakthrough results in the latest tests. The FDA has fast-tracked our application. Emma smiled through tears. James would be so proud. As she walked back to her car, Emma noticed a notification appear on her phone. An email marked Urgent from Harrison Technologies' secure server. The subject line read, Project Phoenix Update. For Rebecca Harrison only. Emma stared at the screen, wondering what final secret James had kept, even from her. Emma stared at the strange email notification. Project Phoenix? Something directed only to Rebecca? With trembling fingers, she tapped the message, expecting it to require special access. To her surprise, it opened immediately. Project Phoenix Status Report. Treatment protocol ready for final FDA submission. All patient data anonymized as requested. Awaiting final approval from R. Harrison. The email included technical documents and trial results for the cancer treatment, the same treatment Dr. Meyer had just called about. Emma scrolled down, finding a personal note at the bottom. Rebecca, as James requested, this project was kept separate from regular operations. He wanted you to oversee the final stages personally, despite your financial disagreements. He said, Rebecca understands what this means to our family better than anyone. Please advise on next steps. Alan Meyer. Emma sat in her car trying to understand. Despite everything, Rebecca's embezzlement, her attempts to steal the girl's inheritance, James had wanted his sister to oversee his most important project. He had kept faith in her, even knowing her flaws. He really did know her better than anyone, Emma whispered to herself. 3 years later, on a bright March morning, the Harrison estate looked completely different. The formal gardens had been partially converted to play areas with a soccer field and a basketball court. The guest house Emma and the girls had moved into had become their permanent home, as Emma preferred its warmth to the cold grandeur of the mansion. Mom! We're going to be late, Sophie called from outside, where 3 bikes waited on the path. Emma hurried out carrying a large cake box. I've got everything. Is Michael here yet? Just pulled in? Lily answered, pointing to the gate where Michael's car appeared. Today was special, the triplets' 11th birthday. 3 years had passed since the inheritance battle, and life had found a new normal. Emma had managed the trust responsibly, focusing on raising the girls while supporting the foundations and research James had valued. Michael parked and joined them, looking distinguished with more gray in his hair than before. "Happy birthday, girls," he called. "Big day today." The birthday celebration was being held at the James Harrison Foundation headquarters, the girls' choice. They had become increasingly involved in their father's legacy, each in their own way. At the foundation building, staff greeted the girls warmly. The triplets had grown taller, their features maturing, though they still maintained their identical appearance. Their personalities, however, had become more distinct. "Sophie, the coding club students are waiting to show you their project," said a staff member. Sophie, who had inherited her father's technical brilliance, had started a weekly program teaching underprivileged kids computer programming. At 11, she already understood concepts many adults struggled with. "I'll be right there," she said, excitement in her voice. "I want to see if they fixed that bug in their game." Lily headed straight for the research wing where she had been allowed to observe, but not touch, some of the basic lab equipment. Her interest in genetic science had grown stronger, inspired by learning about her father's condition. "Dr. Meyer said he'd show me the new microscopes today," she told Emma. "The ones that can see inside cells." Olivia, the most compassionate of the three, stayed by Emma's side. She had become the face of the Foundation's children's outreach program, writing letters to sick kids and organizing donation drives at school. "Mom, did you bring the special candles?" Olivia asked. "The ones that don't make smoke? Remember, some of the kids from the hospital can't handle regular ones." Emma squeezed her daughter's hand. "Yes, sweetie, everything's ready." As they prepared for the party, Michael approached Emma with an unexpected expression. "Emma, there's someone here to see the girls." I wasn't sure how to handle it. He gestured toward the lobby. "Rebecca is here." Emma's heart skipped. She hadn't seen Rebecca since the settlement 3 years ago. "What does she want?" "She says she'd like to wish her nieces happy birthday. She has gifts." Emma hesitated, then nodded. "Let me talk to her first." Rebecca waited nervously in the lobby, holding 3 beautifully wrapped packages. She looked different, less polished, more human. Her designer clothes had been replaced with simple slacks and a sweater. "Rebecca," Emma said quietly. Rebecca turned, her expression uncertain. "Emma, thank you for seeing me. I understand if you ask me to leave. Why are you here after 3 years of silence?" Rebecca looked down at the gifts in her hands. "I've been in therapy. A lot of therapy. I've had to face some difficult truths about myself and how I treated James, how I treated you and the girls." She took a deep breath. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted to acknowledge their birthday. They're my only family now." Emma studied her former adversary, seeing genuine remorse in her eyes. "Wait here." She returned to the party area and gathered the triplets away from the guests. "Girls, your Aunt Rebecca is here. She'd like to wish you happy birthday." Sophie frowned immediately. "The one who tried to steal our money? Who said mean things about you?" "Yes," Emma answered honestly. "She's been away getting help for her problems. She brought gifts for you." Olivia's face softened first. "Is she sad?" "I think she's lonely," Emma replied. Lily, practical as always, asked, "Do we have to see her?" "No," Emma said firmly. "It's your choice. All of you." The girls huddled together, whispering as they often did when making important decisions. Finally, Sophie spoke for them. "We'll see her. But if she says anything mean about you, we're leaving." Rebecca's hands trembled visibly when the girls approached her. She seemed startled by how much they had grown. "Hello," she said softly. "Happy birthday." Lily stepped forward first. "Thank you for coming to our party." Rebecca held out the gifts. "These are for you." I remembered what James told me about your interests." The girls unwrapped their presents carefully. For Sophie, a rare first-edition book on computer programming that James had owned in college. For Lily, a professional microscope kit. For Olivia, a collection of handwritten letters from children helped by Harrison Technologies medical programs. "These are from Dad's things?" Sophie asked, running her fingers over the book. Rebecca nodded. "He kept them in his office at our childhood home. I thought you should have them." The initial awkwardness slowly faded as Rebecca shared stories about James as a child. How he built a computer from parts at age 12. How he always stood up for kids who were bullied at school. He once reprogrammed the school's bell system because a kid in a wheelchair needed more time between classes, she told them. He got in so much trouble, but he didn't care. The girls listened intently, soaking up these new details about their father. When it was time to cut the cake, Olivia surprised everyone by taking Rebecca's hand. "You should stay," she said simply. "Your family too." Later, as the party continued, Michael joined Emma where she sat watching the scene from a distance. "That was generous of you," he said, letting Rebecca back in. "It's not my forgiveness to give," Emma replied. "It's the girls' choice. They're old enough to decide who they want in their lives." Michael smiled. "They're remarkable children. James would be so proud." "Speaking of James," Emma said, "I have news. The FDA officially approved the cancer treatment today. Harrison Technologies is announcing it at the end of the party." "That's incredible," Michael said. "All those years of research finally paid off." "Project Phoenix," Emma nodded. "James named it after the mythical bird that rises from ashes. He knew he wouldn't survive, but he wanted to make sure others would." The formal announcement came an hour later. Dr. Meyer presented the news to applause from Foundation staff and guests. The treatment that would save thousands of lives with the same genetic condition that had taken James was now approved for wide use. As the party wound down, Emma found herself sitting alone on James's favorite bench in the garden. From there, she could watch her daughters showing Rebecca around the Foundation's memorial wall, which featured photos of James alongside images of children helped by their programs. "You did it," she said softly, as if James could hear her. "Your legacy is secure, both in the lives you'll save and in the daughters who carry your spirit." Michael approached, offering her a cup of coffee. "Mind if I join you?" Emma moved over, making room on the bench. "They're getting so big." "Sophie's already talking about taking programming classes at the community college. James left them more than just money," Michael observed. "They inherited his brilliance, his determination, and his heart," Emma added, watching Olivia gently explain something to a younger child who had attended the party. "Despite everything, he had a good heart." The sun began to set over the Harrison estate, casting long shadows across the garden where three young girls, once strangers to their father's world, now moved with confidence and purpose. Rebecca stood somewhat apart, still uncertain of her place but present nonetheless. "You know," Michael said quietly, "James left one more thing for them. A video he recorded to be opened on their 16th birthday. He gave it to me for safekeeping." Emma turned to him in surprise. "What does it say?" "I don't know," Michael admitted. "He sealed it with instructions that only the girls should see it when they're ready." Something about his hopes for the extraordinary women he knew they would become. Emma smiled, watching her daughters laugh together, their faces illuminated by the golden evening light. In them, she could see glimpses of James, his determination in Sophie's focused expression, his curiosity in Lily's thoughtful gaze, his compassion in Olivia's gentle smile. "The money was never his real legacy," she said softly. "They are." If you enjoyed today's video, I'm sure you'll love the next one. Don't waste time. Just click on the screen.